Oh, Raspberry Spurs fans, what a terrible loss against Leeds United. You have to say it. We got outspursed by Leeds. They were the team that was on the front foot from the get. They had quality link-up play. They were having interactive passing that broke us down, and they were just all over the place. They were all over us this match. That has to be said. So welcome back to the Scott Hepler Football Channel. We're doing our post-match ponderings where we go through the good, the bad, and the ugly of the match. Just a little reminder on the tier there. Good is obviously, what it is. Bad is kind of, it was average or below average play or tactics or lineup or whatever. And then ugly is just outright atrocious. And so with that being said, right off the get, I'm going to tell you who my worst of the match was, and that was Dyer. And we'll get into that more here in a bit, but let me know what you all think, how this match played out for you, what you thought was good, what you thought was bad, what you thought was ugly. And as we go through and you have thoughts and stuff, put it down in the comments section. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. I definitely would appreciate it. And, hit that like button if you enjoy this video. So with that being said, we're going to get started into the good. And as you might imagine, there's not a lot of good that can be talked about in this match against Leeds United. There are a couple things. I will say Son, he played a pretty good match. Got a goal. He was definitely our most consistent offensive player and just our most consistent player overall. He was the only one providing any issues for Leeds United. He had a few opportunities. He was in there working hard. He's the one. If it wasn't for Son yesterday, we would have never scored a goal. We wouldn't have been, I don't know that we would have gotten but one or two shots on goal, to be honest. I mean, what we had was mostly because Son was involved and engaged. And so he's one of my goods. The other good I have is Lloris, and this is just kind of a quick review of the match without going back through and watching it at a very detailed breakdown level. But I know it's hard to say that he actually did good when 3 goals are scored on him, but I honestly, just watching initially, couldn't find much fault in him for those 3 goals. And he actually had a number of good saves that kept the margin as small as it was. It kept us in the game for quite a while there too, because they could have blown this up early in the match within the first 30-40 minutes, and we would have been down significantly going into halftime. So, Lloris is my other good. And, I know he's had some peaks and valleys throughout this season. I think he's kind of up more in those peaks right now. He's had a pretty decent last few games. It's usually the defense that's letting him down here lately, and not just him and not his inability to do some things. The biggest thing I still think with Lloris is he sits on his line too much. There's opportunities here and there he could come out and mitigate some risk, but, he is what he is at this point. I don't think he's really going to change. All right, that's my good. We're done. Good's done. We're delving into it now. We're going to go into the deep end here. Start moving into the deep end. All right, my first bad that I have. Remember, bad's either kind of around average or just below average. My first bad is Højbjerg. For me, he was very poor today in his positioning and being able to be that guy that just kind of stops them in their tracks. He didn't do it, and there was a number of times that his positioning let us down and allowed opportunities for them, allowed them to flow through us easily. And he just did not have his normal solid match. I mean, even when he's not great, he's at least solid, and you know what you're going to get out of him. And that was not today. He just left a lot wanting. He had a number of mistakes, poor tackles, giving up the ball, etc. He wasn't the typical guy that we usually have in that middle. The next bad I have is Lo Celso. The guy, he was almost non-existent in that first half. And second half, I think he did better, but he just didn't have the quality that we need out of him. And this is the first match that it's really been just consistently throughout the entire match. There's been matches where, there'll be a short period where, and then he'll come out of the funk or whatever he's in and he starts doing some things. But this match, it was kind of consistently throughout the match. Nothing detrimental, but it just is not the level that we need. And it's bad enough that he's in the bad category. And I hate to say that because I like Lo Celso. I think he brings a different energy, a different dynamic to the midfield, especially in a forward midfielder position, than like Amora or Dele Alli or anyone else that you put up, or Ndombele. So I think he's definitely could be a good player for us, but we've got to see something different than what we saw today out of him for that to be the case. My next bad thing is Reguilon. He was part of that first goal, dealt with that cross that came in very poorly. They gave one shot from behind the goal where it looked like it might be kind of difficult for him to punch it out to the inline without taking a big risk on putting it in the net. But if you're going to drop it right there, you've got to be able to do something with it and get it out of there. Just dropping it right there for the offensive player to tee off on is not the right answer either. Let it go. Do something else. Don't just tee him up and say, here you go. Here's you a free shot from 3 yards out. I mean, the guy was just 3 yards out. It's inside the 6-yard box. So that was very poorly done, I think. And I understand it was angled very awkwardly towards the goal. Not a lot of options, but you just got to do something different. And that leads me into his quality when he's defending. He's kind of regressed in my mind as a defender, and he didn't show any quality going forward yesterday, or not during the match either. He just was really kind of blah all day long, whether it was offensively or defensively. There was nothing there that provided any quality, anything that would help the team move forward and be better. And it was like he was one of those pieces that was dragging us down. And so I think Reguilon was one of my bads. My next bad, we're not done with the bad yet. We're still in the bads. I mean, you can almost throw the entire team in here, really. I mean, in the bad or the ugly category, in my opinion. But, I'm not going to do that. We're not going to go through every single player. I'm just focusing on the ones that I had made notes about that were significantly in these categories, or, definitely had some key points. So Ali's my next one. For the first 23 minutes, the guy, I didn't even know he was on the field. He was absent from link-up play. He was not getting engaged in helping out with the defense. And it was almost like he didn't show up until he was a part of that assist. And the assist is the only thing that's keeping him out of the ugly category at this point. If it wasn't for the assist that he got to Song, which was a great assist, I'll give him credit for that. And that's why he's not in the ugly category. He would be in the ugly for me with everything that I'm talking about with Ali if it wasn't for the assist. Another thing with him is he left huge pockets of space in the midfield for the Leeds United players to operate and do things when they have possession. He was not assisting whenever we didn't have the ball very much. He did not get in there and engage the Leeds United defenders, and they were running amok on us. And I think that's part of the reason that Højbjerg and Lo Celso was so exposed, is there was no one helping them. They were doing it all themselves. Now they've got to do a better job than they did, but Ali was part of the problem with that, and because there were so many times that Leeds United had the ball and Ali's farther forward, not because he made a run and he's coming back. He's farther forward than Kane. And it's like, what are you doing, guy? You're not a freaking center forward. You've got to help back. It's just the fact. You're a midfielder. Get your butt back, get engaged, help turn that ball over, and then move us forward. But that was not happening. And my last point on Ali, there were so many times, a number of times, he just seemed very apathetic. He had a very apathetic demeanor out there. He just, he just looked like he was a kid that felt sorry for himself standing on the side, edge of the action on the playground. Like, no one wants to play with me. And he was often walking around the pitch, not even, hustling back or hustling to do this or that. He was walking a significant amount. And this is not, at the 80th minute. This is, when we are trying to push to get an equalizer, when we're trying to, get the ball back and try to do something. There's just too much laziness and apathetic nature to him at this point in his career, and he provides nothing in the midfield for me. He'll have a moment here and there, but a moment out of a 90-minute match does not change the match. We could have been a very different team if he was engaged the entire match. Like I said, the first 23 minutes, hardly even knew he was on the field. Hardly even knew he was on the field until he got the assist. So that's Ollie. Next, ugly. We're still in the ugly. Haven't got in. Not ugly, bad. We're not in ugly yet. So the next bad is Lamela. Usually Lamela comes on, provides some energy, provides some attacking prowess and things, but this day, while he did provide a little bit of energy, his end product quality was even more lackluster than usual. He was giving the ball up repeatedly, just missing opportunities to make passes, and he did nothing for us by coming on, in my opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong, Ali should have been subbed out much earlier, in my opinion. So it's just, no one was really working for us today. No one was working for the team. No one was working hard, except for Song, as I said before. This whole team seemed kind of, we just had a big blowout. We're okay. Well, we can't play Sheffield United for the last 4 matches and say we're going to get 12 points. It's not going to happen. We can't do it. So, all right. Done with the ugly. Done with the bad, moving into the ugly. Man, I keep just wanting to get into the ugly. Well, like I said, everyone could be in the ugly almost, or the bad. All right, we're getting out of the bad, we're moving into the ugly. So my first ugly, and we mentioned him at the very beginning of the video, is Dyer. He's my worst man of the match, or worst of the match. And this guy I have so many marks down for him. He had the most negative marks of any player, and I don't have notes for every one of them, because if I would have made detailed notes on what every one of those were, I would have missed half the match. But he constantly was losing his man, was in a poor position. His positioning was very poor, and his passing was pretty shoddy. If you look at the second goal is created because of a poor clearance, because he's trying to pass a ball to someone in the middle. Get that, but you got to be able to do it. If you don't execute it, they're right there, moving into our penalty box. And that's what happened. He gave it up to the Leeds United, and they start attacking. And then within that same play, he loses his man. So he not only gives the ball to him, gives them the opportunity to start attacking about 30 yards out, he goes and loses his man who scores the goal. He just doubled down on how bad he could be for that play. But it wasn't just that play. He consistently had those kinds of issues. They just didn't always result in goals. He was constantly just making a mess of everything back there. And, he did the same thing when we played Sheffield United. In the first 5-10 minutes, he made a pass at midfield directly to their striker. And so it's not like this is a new thing. He does not make good decisions, does not make quality decisions and make good plays. He's not where he's supposed to be on a regular basis. And I said it in the preview ponderings and the predicted ponderings. If Dyer was in here, it's going to come around to bite us because Leeds United has the players who can be clinical and take advantage of those situations. And they did. So there's one. There's one of the uglies. It's Dyer. My second ugly is Aurier. The dude is either, usually he's on the bottom end of the spectrum, or he does pretty good. Well, you know what? These past 2 weeks, we've seen him at his best, and we've seen what he normally is, and that's what this match was. The guy was a part of the first goal. He did not get out there and close down the guy. He was very slow and apathetic in closing down the Leeds United attacker who put the ball across, and that allowed them to get their first goal. And that was just horrendous. He's very much a streaky player and checks in and out often. And that was an example of it. He just I'll get out there when I get out there, do. But, in this entire match, though, he was often very slow to recover for defense. I think he got a big head about the Sheffield United match where he wasn't coming back and he doesn't need to come back as much or as strong. And it bit us this match. They were constantly just pounding us on that side. He also got beat a number of times by the Leeds United attackers. They left him dancing in his own mess right there number of times, and they were able to get crosses in and put in, go around him and different things. He was horrible defensively against Leeds, and then offensively he didn't provide anything. Again, maybe he got big head about what he did at Sheffield, thought, I'm the guy again, I'm the man. Well, you know what? You got to do it all the time. It can't be you show up once every 10, 15 matches. He did nothing offensively for us. He did get that one shot off on goal, but that's after they were up and they were kind of hunkering back into, we're like, we got this. We're getting the win. That was after the 85th minute, after they got their third goal. What do they care? They'll hunker in, and I'd rather let Aurier shoot than Kane or Son or Bale. Heck, all day long. Yeah, go ahead, have your shot. But yeah, he provided no quality going forward to this match. The Sheffield United match is a lower caliber team that provides no offensive threat. And it shows what Aurier could be if he would be that against quality opponents, but he doesn't. And that's the last I'm going to talk about Aurier on this one. Now, my last ugly is the lineup. And I said it in the preview ponderings and the predictive ponderings. The first thing we had to do was start out with a solid defense. And there was 3 players I said we can't have in this defense or we're going to be giving up many goals, anywhere from 2 to 5. And 2 of those 3 played, Aurier and Dyer. And guess who are 2 of the greatest reasons that we gave up goals and we lost this match? Aurier and Dyer. Reguilon wasn't very great, but he wasn't as bad as Aurier and Dyer. And then the other piece to this lineup is putting Ali in there again after he had a poor match against Sheffield United, a weak team. He did not have a great match against them. He didn't. He was very in and out of the match. He was very apathetic in that match too. That's the best way I can describe his entire run of play while he's been in here under Mason is very apathetic, entitled. He just does not show any desire to do anything well. And that says a lot about what Mason's seeing, or at least what he's throwing out there to me. He's either just playing as people he knows from his academy days and playing days, or he just doesn't care. Or he's being told. He may be being told, play Ali, play Dyer, play Aurier, because we're going to try to sell them. Let's get their value up. You know what? All you're doing is devalue them at this point. They're not providing anything that anyone's going to be like, oh, I'm going to pay for that guy. They're not. But the lineup was terrible. We didn't start with a solid back line, like I said we needed, and it bit us hard in the butt. And we failed. We failed with the lineup. The subs, I didn't think were anything great. We were too late bringing on Ndombele. He didn't have a chance to get into the match. Not that he did anything. But when Ali's not doing anything, Lo Celso's not doing anything, you got to get someone that has some quality in there, that typically has some quality in there. And someone was throwing out there on Twitter that Ndombele's been injured and what. Well, the guy's been in the lineup every time, or at least on the bench every match, so he's not been injured. He's not been spoke about when injury's been brought up in any press conference, so the guy's not been injured. For whatever reason, Mason does not value Ndombele over an Ali, which just drives me up the wall, because Ali has been the most lackluster player we've had on the pitch throughout the season. I'm not seeing anything of quality out of him, even when he's done a couple things, made an assist or whatnot. It overshadows the regular run of play of what he does, which is very little to nothing. And so it's a very disheartening match. I mean, this one really, I think we had an opportunity. We went with the poor setup again, as I talked about. And I think that's where we lost it, was right out the gate. The way we set up is how we lost this match, because we weren't going to be able to defend against a quality offensive opponent. So, we just, if you look at the stats too, I mean, they just outplayed us throughout the entire match. The first half, the second half, there's not any part of this match where you can say we looked great. And I know people are going to say a lot of stuff about, Bell or Kane was onside for that play and whatnot. Well, you know what? Offside's offsides. Whether you agree with it or not, a millimeter offsides is a millimeter offside. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You can't be a little bit offsides. You either are or you aren't. That's just the fact. So, and at this point, it doesn't do any good to argue. They made their call. You got to go on with the match. You can't let calls like that. And that's something with the Spurs that once something goes against them, boy, does it hang over them for a long period of time. These players have a hard time shaking off any kind of negativity or anything that goes against them, or what they feel goes against them, because they just hang on to it and they let it just seep into what they're doing and how they play. And then they become negative. The entire aura of the team becomes negative on the pitch. You can just see it. And it's a problem. We definitely have a serious problem here. And we got 3 matches to go. As I said, we can't play Sheffield United for every match that's left, unfortunately. But at this point, I know Leicester lost. But in my opinion, Leicester is very similar to Leeds United. They have quality offense and can score. if we continue to play the same defensive set, we're just going to be conceding goals left and right against the quality offense. And then against Aston Villa and Wolverhampton, right now at this point, I don't know that I can say we'll win any of those. Do we have an opportunity? Yeah. But again, it's going to come down to what Mason decides to do with the lineup and everything. But, it seems like for much of this season, it's been, I'm rooting. I'm optimistic because, I want the Spurs to do well. I'm excited and think we can do something. My heart tells me, yeah, we can do it. But my head tells me, oh my gosh, this is not good. And, and then Spurs has does a couple good games here and then they fall off the deep end again. There's no consistency within this team. So if we win 2 out of the 3 next matches, I would be surprised at this point. But as always, we'll be hoping and rooting for them. And let me know what you all think. And come on, you Spurs.